I had the pleasure of sitting down with Miriam Fitch. In her 91 years, Miriam has traveled to many countries with her husband and children. Miriam unfortunately lost her husband, Bruce, a little over a year ago, and has been grieving that loss since. Miriam was raised in England, and following our interview, she treated Christi and I to a proper English tea, much to our delight. Her home is filled with many memories of her husband's military career, her children, and their travels to many countries like Rhodesia, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Russia, and Zimbabwe. She had a degree in social work and psychology and worked with anxiety disorders in women and children. Miriam embraces the common threads that we all experience as humans on this planet. We can all learn from her example. Thank you for joining our village to hear another one of our voices. And why did you choose to do that as a profession?
I think just from childhood, really, and the religious aspect of helping other people, and it just fitted me somehow. It was just I like to take care of things and communicate, and with my father's work in politics, we were very involved, and we used to speaking to other grown-ups and even little children, helping to get him elected, and so it was just a mixture of things that.
Did you find it was a satisfying career for you?
Oh, very much so. I would be doing it now if I wasn't too old.
Yeah.
And absolutely, I just loved doing it. I loved it.
What was your favorite part of the career?
Well, I did a lot of work with children, and then the things with anxiety disorders, and things that had a lot of women involved. So I liked it all. I was happy with all of it, and I've always been interested in politics. I got a scholarship to go to the London School of Economics when I was, I think I was between 18 and 19. My father had said, why don't you go and take their examination? Mm-hmm. And I did. And that involved taking the overnight train to London. I'd never been to London. And in the morning, went across the street to the coffee shop that I knew the name of, and had a little bit of breakfast. And then the policeman on the corner, I asked him how I would get to where I needed to go to take the testing. He didn't know. So I had to take a cab, and I didn't have that much money. Oof. So I did that. And then when I got to this place, it was all ex-service people, older than me, and then like showing off their uniforms of Air Force, and I, anyway, there was an interview, and then written work, and so on, and then 2 or 3 weeks later, I got a letter saying I'd been given a place, and which is the London School of Economics is really where everybody would want to go, mm-hmm. And that was really special. But my family couldn't afford to have me living in London and doing all of that, and so I wasn't able to. And I wish I'd kept the letter telling me that I had this place. I didn't, that time didn't think of it. But so I went to Durham University, which is the oldest one in England, and that's where I met Bruce. So that was meant to be.
It's good that you went, yeah.
But a lot of the people who were in government in England all went to the London School of Economics. Yeah. It's very political. And I would probably have been in the government and a politician. I would have been.
Which would have made it harder to travel as much as you did.
Well, but I would have been living in London and mixing with all the important people and getting the chance to vote on bills to help people, like the British Health Service.
Yeah.
In things like that.
Yeah.
So, anyway, here I am, and I think it's just the opportunities of childhood that form, make you what you're interested and want to do, and it just happens bit by bit. And but that basic caring and being interested in what other people's lives are. When we lived in Rhodesia, we had our servants lived in kind of little huts at the bottom of the garden kind of thing. And they weren't paid very much.
How did you feel about the racism when you were there?
Well, we left. We were there and realized if you're invited to dinner, as an example, then the conversation would be about the Africans that worked in their houses and demeaning, and we weren't tolerant of that.
Yeah.
And for instance, there was one dinner party, and the man who was speaking had been a bricklayer in London. Now, a bricklayer is a workman, but there he's white, and he was talking about the Africans in a very demeaning way, and I said something that the rest of the people didn't agree with. So I had to go and sit out on the veranda and not stay there again.
Yeah.
So, and we had started doing a little bit of political work there when we left. We had a couple of the political people come to our house at night, because it would be not acceptable to have them during the day.
Because they were African?
Yeah.
Or, yeah. Wow.
I mean, just so many things. And I'm really sorry for the country, because they've not been well governed, not at all.
So you left, you didn't fit in with the...
Yeah, I mean,
mindset
Bruce did in his work, but we were just starting out, and we knew that that isn't the way we wanted to live. And so we, next stop was Des Moines, Iowa.
From Rhodesia to Des Moines?
Yeah.
And then when did you go to Australia?
Well, then, after, that was with the company. And it was Australia and New Zealand and Canada and Russia. And the thing about Russia, you know what the media does about Russia here, and if you're there, the people are people, just like you and me. We went to the circus, we went to Mass there, and the Russian male voice choir is wonderful. And and the people, when we were visiting monuments and so on, quite often I'd feel a little, and not speaking in language we could use, the women would ask me if these were my children, and then they would... See, they weren't allowed to have all those children.
They weren't. I didn't realize that.
So we were communicating with the woman who came in to clean the rooms. We could communicate, you do, somehow.
Yeah.
And so I think of the Russian people, not just worrying about what the politicians do. And I mean, you hear nothing good about Russia.
Yes.
And it's a bad thing for us and for them.
Yes.
Just to see the people as enemies.
My biggest takeaway from my time with Miriam has been her example of love and service. She is determined to make a positive impact on this world by lending a hand and heart whenever able. I really enjoyed my time with her, as we hope that you enjoyed this week's interview. Please follow us on our social media, share with us your comments. We really appreciate your likes and shares, and most importantly, please subscribe to our Village Our Voices, so we can bring these inspirational stories to more women in the village that we are creating. Thank you for joining us today.